Hey guys, what an amazing year it's been so far. Coming up on December 9th, it'll be 2 full years since we've been in Vanuatu. And we just wanted to film a recap video of 2025 to praise God for all the amazing things that He's done. As some of you might remember, we had an earthquake strike Vanuatu last year, December 17th, 2024. Now, Vanuatu is used to natural disasters, but this was a 7.3 magnitude earthquake that caused a lot of damage. Many people lost their homes. A lot of the stuff in our own house fell over and broke. We lost power, water, and internet for almost a week. And many of you were wondering if we were okay. The country is still recovering from the damage of the earthquake, and it's going to take a long time for them to rebuild. But thankfully, despite all the challenges early on in the year, we were able to continue on with ministry and see God do amazing things. Shortly after the earthquake, a good friend of ours, Wanga Willie, who we love dearly and have spent a lot of time with in discipleship, volunteered with us for the first 3 months, and he was a huge help. He helped us with translation work and adapting some of the principles of our main training to fit the culture of Vanuatu well, and we're so thankful for our time with him. For all of our time in Vanuatu so far, it's been a season of learning and waiting. We've been learning the culture and the language and building relationships with the national denominational leaders so that we have permission to begin working with local churches, which is our desire. And that was true in the first part of 2025 as well. We have been developing those relationships, and in the meantime, we have found a church for us personally to start going to, which has been a big blessing. And they asked us to kick off their youth group nights for the year, and it was the first time that they ever were introduced to small groups.
And moving into Q2, one of the biggest relationships that we started to develop was with the Presbyterian denomination's new SOM, Servant on Mission. And he was going to play a huge part in whether or not we partnered with the Presbyterian denomination. So Asher and I got to meet with him. We shared our testimonies and we shared a little bit about Word of Life. And then a little later in April, our zone leader, Tom McIver, and his wife, Liz, got to come over from New Zealand to visit us in Vanuatu. And Tom got to meet with the SOM as well, just to bring validity to the ministry and help build up some of those relationships. In April, Word of Life launched their first Eternity 5 Million initiative, where they wanted to reach 5 million people with the gospel through social media and other means. And in Vanuatu, we recorded personal testimonies as well as a testimony from Wanga. And through social media, we reached over 15,000 people in Vanuatu with the good news of Jesus. Then at the start of May, we traveled to the US for Word of Life's World Leadership Conference, which happens every 3 years. And it was an exciting time for us. We got to go for the first time. We met a lot of the different leaders around the world. We were taught by amazing speakers. And the theme of the conference was the integrity of heart, which we took very seriously. And so when we came back to Vanuatu, we started to look into ways on how we could implement that into the ministry and into our own lives through discipleship relationships, accountability partners, and even professional counseling, which has been a blessing. And just before we left for this trip, we found out some of the best news of our whole lives, which is that we were expecting. And we got to share the amazing news with our families and friends in person. We got to go get an ultrasound to check out the baby, make sure that it was growing well, and confirm the due date, which is January 1st, 2026.
Moving into Q3, it really felt like all of our patience and our hard work was starting to pay off when we got invited to the 76th General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of Vanuatu. This assembly happens every year, and it moves around different places in Vanuatu, and it's like a big business meeting where they vote and approve things. And this was our first opportunity to have permission from the largest denomination in Vanuatu to work with their individual local churches. And so we were really surprised when we found out where this assembly was going to be located, because it just so happened that God orchestrated it so that it was taking place in a very small community of Vanuatu, a remote area that's hard to access. That was the same place that I spent 3 months in 2016 living and serving the people there. And so I was so excited to get to go back. And it's been such a blessing in my life that God has orchestrated things this way. So we left on a ship, and the seas were rough, and we got to the island the next day and took a truck for another few hours to get to the village. And it was amazing. The people there remembered me. They were excited to see me after such a long time. And I got to share with them for the first time how much God had used them so many years ago to change my life. They had no idea for the last 9 years, because I haven't been able to contact them, that God changed my life and actually called me to ministry in that place because of the love that they showed me. And it was also great because the Presbyterian Church voted to approve a partnership with us, allowing us to train individual church branches in youth ministry all throughout next year. We also made a great new relationship during this time with Pastor Rob Falls, who's the academic dean of the largest seminary in Vanuatu, the Taloa Theological Training Institute. And they've invited us to travel to this seminary on Santo Island next year to teach the first ever youth ministries course that they've ever offered to the training pastors there. The team there at Taloa also has agreed to partner with us in translation, which is a huge answer to prayer. And they've already been able to adapt and translate our core training for youth leaders, which is about 70 pages. And we've been able to print around 50 copies so far that we've used in different trainings. They've also agreed for the partnership to be an ongoing relationship as they help with the translation of our quiet time resource. After we made it back from this 2-week trip for the assembly, we had the opportunity to run our very first ever core trainings for youth leaders with different groups. One was with one of the ladies on our board of directors for the ministry, and 2 with other youth leaders. And 2 more were more organized with more people. And they were both with the national level youth leadership of 2 different denominations. So one was with Church of Christ, and the other was with the Presbyterian Church. And both of these had around 15 people in attendance, and has paved the way for the youth leadership team to understand the core training and be able to help us next year as we travel around and train individual church branches. So the door is wide open next year for the very first time to be working with hundreds of different individual church branches in Vanuatu, and we are so excited.
When I reached my 3rd trimester, Asher and I spent some time apart. I traveled back to the US because Vanuatu's medical care is pretty poor. And so I wanted to go back to the US to make sure that the end of the pregnancy was progressing well. And I was able to get some ultrasounds, establish a relationship with the doctors at the hospital that I'll give birth in. And Asher stayed back for 6 weeks in Vanuatu to continue on with some trainings that we had planned for the end of the year. Obviously, the time apart was hard, but now that Asher's back, we're so excited to celebrate the holidays with our families for the first time in 4 years, and we're going to wait in anticipation for this baby to be born. Due date is January 1st, 2026.
So we're praying for a safe delivery with no complications, and that God would use this next few months to help us raise funds to continue the work in Vanuatu next year with all the new open doors that he's provided for us. And so if you've been encouraged by everything that God has done in Vanuatu so far, and you believe that he is going to continue to do amazing things in 2026, we would love for you to be a part of our Light the Islands project by clicking the link in the description below, and even sharing the link with your friends.
So we just want to say thank you to everybody who has partnered with us for your faithfulness, firstly to the Lord and then to us for your prayers and your support. We're grateful every day for a team of people who love us and love the gospel. And we're excited for this next year and all that God is going to do in Vanuatu.